Subaru took their most beloved car, the one with a cult following so loyal it borders on a religion, and changed almost everything about it. The wagon shape? Gone. The distinctive low-slung silhouette? Gone. A hybrid option in 2026? Also gone. And the fans? Furious. So here's the question nobody can agree on right now. Did Subaru just modernize the Outback, or did they accidentally replace it with something else entirely?
This is the 2026 Subaru Outback Wilderness, 7th generation, full redesign, and already one of the most debated cars of the year. Today, we're going deep, the controversial new look, what it actually feels like to drive, what Subaru got brilliantly right, what they got wrong, and whether the price makes any sense at all. Buckle up. Let's get into it.
Let's start with the thing everyone's arguing about, because it matters more than any spec on this car. The Outback used to be a wagon. Not officially, Subaru never called it that, but that long, low, stretched body told the whole story. It was practical, it was different, and in a country drowning in round-edged crossovers that all look like they were designed by the same algorithm, the Outback stood out. Now, look at it. Taller, boxier, flatter roof, more upright front end. Stand it next to the new Forester, and you'll spend a solid 30 seconds squinting trying to figure out which is which. Here's what Subaru actually changed. The new body sits roughly 2 inches taller than the previous generation. The roofline is dramatically flatter, and the front fascia is nearly vertical. The rear glass has a steeper rake. The headlights are repositioned vertically at the 4 corners to emphasize that go-anywhere presence. And honestly, on paper, every single one of those changes makes sense. More height means more headroom. Flatter roof means more cargo volume. Tougher lower cladding is now textured for scratch resistance instead of just looking rugged. But here's the thing about the Outback that Subaru might be underestimating. People didn't just buy it for the utility. They bought it because it felt like a secret. It was the car for people who wanted capability without announcing it. The wagon that wasn't a wagon. The SUV that didn't look like every other SUV in the parking lot. That's gone now. And the timing is interesting, because this redesign is landing right in the middle of a quiet wagon revival. Mercedes is moving GLC wagons. Volvo's V60 Cross Country is finding its audience again. Even Audi's Allroad has a dedicated fan base that refuses to let it die. There was actually a moment, a small one but real, where the Outback could have leaned harder into what made it unique. Instead, Subaru looked at the sales data, looked at what crossovers were doing, and made the logical call. Will it work? Probably. Does it sting? If you loved the old Outback? Yeah, a little. Here's what I keep coming back to though. When was the last time a logical car decision actually killed a loyal fan base? Almost never. So maybe Subaru knows exactly what they're doing.
Forget the looks for a second, because once you're moving, the controversy gets a lot quieter. The Wilderness trim runs the turbocharged 2.4-liter Boxer 4, and the moment you pull onto a gravel road, loose dirt, or a rutted trail, you understand what this powertrain is actually built for. It doesn't hit you like a sports car. It's not supposed to. What it does is deliver smooth, confident thrust exactly when you need it. No lag hunting, no drama, just pull. On a steep climb with loose ground underneath, that matters more than raw horsepower numbers ever could. Now, the base Outback trims run a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter Boxer 4, and having driven both, I'll say this, the base engine gets the job done for daily driving, but there were a few moments on the highway where I genuinely wished for more. The Wilderness Turbo fixes that immediately.
Both engines run through Subaru's CVT, and before you sigh, hear me out. Subaru's CVT has gotten genuinely good. There's an 8-speed manual mode with paddle shifters if you want to feel more in control. And on the trail, the transmission stays out of the way and lets the torque do the work. The Wilderness-specific setup adds electronically controlled dampers, and you feel them. Hit a sharp rut at speed, and instead of the car getting unsettled, it just absorbs it. Quiet confidence. That's the only way to describe it. Ground clearance is 9.5 inches on the Wilderness, up from the standard 8.7. Combined with all-terrain tires, dual-mode X-mode, hill descent control, and Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive, this car will go places that will make you rethink what a family car can do. And here's something that stuck with me. Midweek, I pulled into a gas station, 6 cars at the pumps. 3 of them were Outback Wildernesses. Not just Outbacks, Wildernesses. That's not a coincidence. That's a fan base that's already voted.
But here's where it gets complicated.
because that same gas station visit exposed the one flaw in this whole package that no amount of trail capability can fix.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, or more accurately, the hybrid that isn't in the room. In 2026, with gas prices swinging wildly, with every major competitor adding electrified options, with buyers increasingly asking what's my cost per mile before they ask anything else, Subaru launched an all-new generation of their most important vehicle with zero hybrid option. The naturally aspirated Outback gets around 27 mpg combined. The Wilderness Turbo drops to roughly 24 mpg. Those aren't terrible numbers, but they're not competitive either. A Toyota RAV4 hybrid is hitting 38 mpg, a Ford Escape hybrid clears 40, a Hyundai Tucson hybrid 38 mpg. In this segment, in this moment, the Outback's fuel economy is a genuine liability. And the frustrating part, Subaru has the technology. The Forester already has an e-Boxer mild hybrid system in other markets. The global architecture exists. This wasn't an engineering impossibility, it was a product decision. Whether it was about cost, timing, or North American market strategy, the result is the same. Buyers who care about running costs are going to find it very hard to justify the Wilderness trim over time. Now, Subaru does have the Trailseeker, their full EV that essentially mirrors what the Outback does but without any gas. But here's the reality. A large chunk of the Outback's buyers aren't ready to go fully electric yet. They want the bridge. They want a hybrid Outback that gets 35 miles per gallon and still climbs a mountain. That car doesn't exist, and in a market that's only getting more fuel cost conscious, that gap is going to matter.
So Subaru gave you more capability, more space, a better interior, and then handed you a car that costs more to fuel than almost everything in its class. That's the tension at the heart of this whole vehicle. Hold that thought.
Real talk. If you're cross-shopping right now, is it this Outback Wilderness or the RAV4 TRD Off-Road? Because those two are going to cross paths on a lot of buyer spreadsheets. Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one.
Nobody walked into 2026 expecting Subaru to win the interior game. That's not a knock, it's just history. For years, Subaru interiors were practical, durable, and distinctly behind the curve on technology. The old vertical touchscreen became something of a running joke as the rest of the industry moved on. That era is over. The new Outback gets a 12.1-inch multimedia display, horizontal, clean, fast, and genuinely intuitive. Next to it, a fully digital 12.3-inch instrument cluster, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. The whole interface has been rebuilt from scratch, and it shows. This is no longer a system you tolerate, it's one you actually enjoy using. But honestly, what surprised me more than the screens was the cabin itself. Subaru made quietness a stated priority for this generation, and they delivered. Road noise is significantly reduced. Wind intrusion at highway speed is noticeably better. The overall sense of refinement is a real step up. The extra height translates directly into headroom that genuinely feels generous. Cargo space in back is expanded. And the materials, while not luxury tier, have moved meaningfully upmarket from what the previous Outback offered. Here's the industry context that makes this interesting. Subaru's interior reputation has historically been their biggest competitive weakness in reviews and reliability surveys. The 6th generation Outback's infotainment system was widely criticized. Fixing it wasn't just a nice-to-have for this generation, it was essential, and they did it. I'll be honest, this was the part of the Outback I expected to have the most complaints about. I don't have many.
So the screen is great, the cabin is quieter, the space is genuinely improved. But does any of that matter if the driving experience on pavement feels like you traded soul for practicality?
Here's what the 2026 Outback Wilderness absolutely nails, and where it still separates itself from the crowd. The off-road package on the Wilderness is the real deal, not a cosmetic trim. The Dual Mode X Mode system gives you specific calibrations for deep snow and mud versus regular slippery conditions. The car is actually making intelligent decisions about power distribution, not just shuffling torque around randomly. Add hill descent control that holds your speed on steep descents without you touching the brakes, and the Wilderness becomes something genuinely capable in terrain where most crossovers would stop and apologize. The all-terrain tires are a meaningful upgrade over all-season rubber. They change what the car can do, not just how it looks. Subaru's symmetrical AWD is still, after all these years, one of the most mechanically sound all-wheel drive systems in the mainstream market. It's not marketing language. The layout genuinely contributes to balance and traction in ways that on-demand AWD systems can't match. And the brand ecosystem matters here too. Subaru's reliability reputation, especially in markets with harsh winters, is genuinely earned. The Outback consistently ranks among the more dependable vehicles in its class for long-term ownership. That matters when you're choosing a family vehicle you plan to drive for a decade. The Wilderness also gets those electronically controlled rear dampers, standard on this trim, which is a feature you'd expect to pay significantly more for on a European rifle. It's a real-world upgrade that changes daily driving, not just press-of-it performance.
So we've got a legitimately capable trail machine, a vastly improved interior, and a brand people trust. The question is, does the price make sense when you stack all of that up against what else is out there right now?
The base 2026 Outback starts at a price point that's competitive for the segment, reasonable if you're comparing it to a standard crossover. But the Wilderness trim is where the math gets harder. You're paying a meaningful premium for the off-road hardware, the adaptive dampers, the clearance, the all-terrain tires, the X-mode calibrations. If you're actually going to use those things, that premium makes sense. If you're buying the Wilderness because it looks more capable than the Limited, and plenty of people will, you're paying for capability you'll never deploy. And here's the long-term cost math that doesn't show up on the window sticker. The fuel difference between the Wilderness Turbo and a hybrid competitor in this segment adds up fast over 3 to 5 years of ownership. We're talking hundreds of dollars annually in fuel costs, depending on how much you drive. That's real money that would have partially offset the cost of a hybrid powertrain Subaru chose not to offer. The value equation on the standard Outback? Strong. The value equation on the Wilderness specifically? Depends entirely on how you drive it. My honest take, if your weekends involve actual trails, the Wilderness earns its price. If your biggest adventure is the grocery store parking lot, get the Limited, save the money, and don't look back.
Here's what I expected going into this review. A Subaru that played it safe, softened the design to chase crossover buyers, and coasted on 2 decades of loyal fans who'd buy another Outback out of habit. Here's what I actually found. The interior upgrade is real and significant. The Wilderness capability is genuine, not cosmetic. The ride quality is noticeably better. The tech has genuinely caught up with the segment. The new design, as much as it hurts to admit if you loved the old wagon shape, is probably the right call for where the market is heading. But the missing hybrid is not a small omission. In the context of 2026, with fuel prices volatile and competitors offering electrified alternatives at every price point, launching a fully new generation of your most important vehicle without even a hybrid option is a calculated risk. It might pay off, but it might also be the footnote that defines this generation when we look back at it. Here's my recommendation. If you're an Outback loyalist who actually uses your car for the outdoors, trails, snow, camping, the real stuff, the Wilderness delivers. It's better than the outgoing version in almost every meaningful way. If fuel economy and long-term running costs are a real factor in your decision, wait. A hybrid Outback is either coming or the Trailseeker EV will mature. But buying into a 24 PMG full redesign in 2026 requires you to be genuinely okay with that trade-off. The 2026 Outback didn't kill what made the Outback great. It just made a different bet about what great means going forward. And honestly, I think it's going to win that bet. But Subaru better not wait another full generation to add that hybrid.
If you want honest, no-fluff breakdowns like this every single week, subscribe to Driviq, because next week we're getting into another one that's generating just as much debate. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. See you then.